Hi guys, so welcome to my channel, and today we're talking about Anscombe's Quartet. Yes, so and it's typically a way to explain a statistical concept or a statistical idea. And so let's jump in on it. Now, what's Anscombe's Quartet? So again, I'm going to break this down, right? It is a collection of 4 data sets. Right, so what's up with these 4 data sets? Right, they are nearly identical when analyzed, right? So they are nearly identical when analyzed. Now, when we are analyzing them, we're using three simple statistics concepts. Here we're looking at the mean, the variance, and correlation. Now they are, when analyzed using the mean, variance, and correlation, they look similar. They show some level of similarities. However, there's a huge however. They reveal very different patterns when visualized, right? So they reveal very different patterns when visualized. Now, this is a very good argument for why we visualize data, right? So it was created by Francis Anscombe to show the importance of data visualization and statistical analysis, and we're going to look at that today, right? So that is what we're going to look at. So the question is, when we use simple statistics or simple summary statistics to look at data, is that the same thing when we visualize it? All right, so let's look at it. Right, so we can also look at other intuitions to it. We can think about it like 4 students having the same average scores in the test, right? But without seeing how they scored in individual exams, you might assume they have the same performance, right? So when you visualize data, you see something different. So let us get started, right? So first thing we're going to look at is we're going to import variables, libraries. So we're going to import libraries. What are the libraries we're going to import? The first, we're going to import Seaborn. Seaborn is a data visualization library. We're going to give it a nickname, SNS. We're also going to import matplotlib. Oh, I don't know why I'm making that mistake. So we're going to, yes, and we're going to use the pyplot as PLT. Then finally we'll import pandas. We import pandas as PD. Right, so we're done with that. So we go to the next line here. Now the next line is we're going to load the data set, the Anscombe's Quartet data set, and it's in the Seaborn repository. So Seaborn has a data set repository, so that's what we're going to use. So we're going to call this data underscore Anscombe, right? So that's what we're going to use to reflect the quartet of data. So we're going to say sns.load. So you're going to see the load data set, and inside we're going to, we're going to call this Anscombe. I hope that's correct. Right, so we have this. So let's see this. So we say data underscore Anscombe. So you see we have all the data here. Look at that. All the data is here. You can see all the data as they are broken down. So you can see that there is 1, and you can see the individual data with the middle one here. So the data set 1, data set 2, data set 3. So let me just make this head. So we just have the first 5. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to use the display. We are going to display with summary statistics for all the data set, right? So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to display summary statistics for all data sets. So this is when we look at the summary statistics, we're going to be like, oh, what's going on here? Now, for me to do that, I'm going to typically make it easy by writing the following. So I'm going to call this summary underscore stats. Then I'm going to use the group by method. So I'm going to say data underscore Anscombe dot group by. Then I'm going to group by. I'm going to group by data set because that's what I want to group by, the data set here. Then I'm going to make an argument for it. So I'm going to use the arg function. Now with the arg function, I'm going to say mean underscore x. So I'm going to typically find, I'm going to call this x over here. Then I'm going to go for the mean. That's the first comma. And I'm going to go for the mean underscore y. And again, just like this, I'm going to have y. And we're going to look at the mean. The next we're going to look at variance. And then we're going to look at the variance of x. Again, we'll open our bracket here, put x over here, and we use var to represent variance. Then we're going to come over here and do the same thing again. So here, I'm just going to copy this and bring it down here. So we just make a change here. This is y, and over here we have y. And then finally, we're also going to look at correlation, right? So we're typically going to look at the correlation here. I call this correlation. And in here, I open the bracket here, and we're going to have x. I'll use the lambda function here to do something. Lambda is an anonymous function you can write in one line. So right, so I'm going to have x, I'll reference x, and I'll say data underscore Anscombe, and I'm going to get a subset of that, data underscore Anscombe. I want to look at my data set here, which is this over here. And I'm going to say everything in here, we're going to have x on dot name. So it's going to be the name of the data sets. So you see we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we are going to get the correlation. And then we use an indexing of it to just basically get 0 and 1. So I close this, and I think we should have this, and then we should have the final part where I close this here. Right, I hope this works. All right, it does. Nice. Then I'll check, let me check what the summary stat is. So now if we look at the summary stat, we have the mean of x and y, right? So if you look over here, the mean of x and y for each data set, you can see 9, 7.50. We look at the variance and look at here. The correlation, we couldn't get that, but that's not a problem. We just have 9 here. But what we're looking at is, you see the mean and we see the variance. You see they all look alike, right? Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to visualize, and this is also what makes this really cool. So we need to visualize, because by looking at this, you're thinking, okay, well, all this looks alike, right? So we're going to visualize. Now, the next thing we're going to do is, I'm going to do this really quickly so that we can work with a lot of stuff. The first aspect is I'm going to set a style So this is it. I set the style here. Next, let me just bring it up so you can see. I'm going to have, first things first, I'm going to go, I'll call this, because I want to visualize this. Let me use, what do I use? Okay, let me just use G equals to, so I'm going to use SNS dot facet grid. Now, facet grid is going to give us an ability to break this into like a grid, right? Inside of it, I'm going to have my data underscore Anscombe, because I'm going to feature that. Then I'm going to have colors. So I'm going to have my columns, and in my column I want to go for the data set column, because that's important. Then I'm going to have this call underscore wrap. Now I want to put this into perspective so we can see. You can see all we're doing. We look at call underscore wrap. If we go over here, let's look at what call underscore wrap is. Wrap is the column variables at this width, so that the column facets span multiple rows, right? So that's what we're going to do here with this. So we wrap it so it will have multiple rows that it can look at. So we're going to have column underscore wrap, and we're going to have two rows. We're going to look at our height over here, and we're going to have 4. Then we look at share X. Here we have false. Again, if you want to see what all this thing means, just simply use the Shift and Tab button, and you're going to look at all of them here, and you can check them out as a documentation. Just check it out and see what that means. Then here we're going to also say false, and then we'll close this. Right, so we've done the main part of it. So the other part of it, I'm just going to basically just use a map and just basically bring everything we have in here. So here is this. So I'm going to map all this here. I suspect we might have some sort of a warning here. I think I've had this before, but I'm not going to do this until I'm done. Then we are also going to have a subplot, and we're also going to have give it a figure subtitle, and I'll put all this here. So I'm copying and pasting because I want it to be really fast. We're going to have the Anscombe's Quartet is a figure subtitle, and we're also going to have subplots. We're going to adjust all this to 0.9, and then finally we have plt.show. Right, so let's run this and see if this works. Okay, we have a warning. I said it. The CI parameter is deprecated. Use error bar equal O. I noticed that this would have been an error. So let me copy this. So whenever you have warnings like this, it's not that hard. You can always go back and check it. So we run this and it works. All right, so look at what we have here. All right, so let me come over here so we could reduce this so we can see this really well. So now this is Anscombe's Quartet, right? So you can see that the first data set that looked like it had the mean, and we had the mean, the variance looking all the same, but you can see when visualized, it looks different. So you can now see that the first data set here gives a sense of a linear relationship. It looks like it keeps going up. You know, if the numbers increases, it looks like it keeps going up. Now, if you look at the second data set, it's showing us a curved pattern. You can see like it just goes up and there's a curve coming down. You know, so this isn't like linear in any way. Now, if we look at the third data set here, it just looks different, right? It's sort of like, feels like it's linear, but all of a sudden there is some like an outlier, right? And so then there's a drop here. Then the final one, you can see that there's a vertical cluster over here, right? And, you know, there's no correlation typically. So you can see that, you know, if you look at these lines that are all drawn here, you see that this looks weird. Now, this is such an important aspect of doing analysis, right? So let me just bring this back up again so that it could be bold. So what are the takeaways? why does this matter? So let's ask, why does this matter? So I bring this down here because I think it's important to talk about why this matters. One, do not trust summary statistics on face value. So it matters a lot. Do not trust summary statistics on face value. That's why it matters a lot for us to look at it that way, right? Also, visualizations, which is V's for short, reveals insights that numbers alone cannot. So it reveals insights that numbers alone cannot. So you cannot just because you put that, right? Just because numbers are there, right? Another thing is we want to ask, what are real world applications for this? So there are many real world applications. You can detect outliers in financial data sets. You can check for model assumptions, and you can identify patterns when you're using clustering tasks. So again, I'm going to put it down here. Real world applications. So we have a real world application for detecting outliers. Really, really important. Another real world application is for checking model assumptions. So you can use it for checking model assumptions. Before you build a machine learning model, you must always have assumptions. And then you can also use it to identify patterns. Use it to identify patterns. And especially when you're maybe doing a clustering algorithm, or you have a clustering task, especially when you're doing like segmentations and all. So yeah, this has really been one hell of a video, but I want you to take your time out and follow this from scratch. Anscombe's Quartet is a collection of 4 data sets. They are nearly identical when analyzed, mean, variance, and correlation. However, they reveal very different patterns when visualized, right? And one key takeaway is never trust summary statistics on face value. So take your time and watch this and make sense of it. Again, if you have questions, drop comments in the comment section, like it, and also subscribe to the channel in case I put up new updates.